This week, I was asked, how do I listen to my inner knowing? I sat with this question for a bit and I realized that the most important thing is differentiating your thoughts from your inner knowing. And lately, I've really been noticing the difference because my inner knowing has had two very clear messages for me. The first being to begin a project, and the second being to end a relationship. So I'm going to use these two examples to share with you what thinking feels like and what your inner knowing feels like. And I'll also share two practices that have helped me to differentiate my thoughts from my intuition. So recently, I've really been observing the different qualities and textures of my thoughts versus my inner knowing. And to sum it up, for me, my thoughts feel like fluctuating noise in the foreground, whereas my intuition feels like unchanging stillness in the background. So let me use the new project as an example. So I have this inner knowing that it's time for me to create a product, and that's most likely going to be a deck of tarot cards. So my thoughts are very inconsistent. One day, my thoughts are completely on board, like, you can do this, of course you can. The next day, imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to create this? And all this doubt and fear kicks in, and my thoughts can't stick to one opinion. When I notice those inconsistent thoughts, I notice that in the background, there is this constant knowing that this is the right thing for me to do. And then when my thoughts kick in, there's this sense of urgency and also a sense of competition. So I look at all these other tarot decks out there and I think, oh my God, they're so good. Like, how am I going to compete with that? Or I need to get this out into the world as quickly as possible. But again, when I'm aware of those urgent and fear based thoughts, I notice that in the background, there is this patience. My inner knowing is not urgent, it's not in a rush, and it's not afraid. It is patient and it's very steady and it's calm. And this is another difference. My thoughts are very erratic and nervous and anxious when it comes to the idea of creating a product and doing something that I've never done before. But my inner knowing is calm. There's this gentle, quiet confidence to it. It knows that I can do this. When I take my attention away from these thoughts, then I notice that that inner knowing is always there. And it's the same when it comes to this inner knowing to end a friendship. So, this inner knowing was very visceral. I felt it very clearly in my body multiple times. Every time I met this friend, during and after our meeting, I was left feeling exhausted and drained, completely drained. And this was my body's way of saying no. But my thoughts would become analytical. My thoughts would weigh the pros and cons. It would feel bad. It would feel emotional for making this decision. But my inner knowing has remained neutral. It's not emotionally charged. There's no feeling bad. There's no guilt. There's no shoulds or shouldn'ts. It's just a very neutral and decisive feeling. And this is another contrast. So the mind is very indecisive, it'll go back and forth. So this is why I continued to meet this friend, despite my body telling me no every time, because the mind, it negotiates with you and it finds reason to continue the relationship and to ignore the signs. But the inner knowing in my body has been decisive and constant every time. So I think this is the biggest difference between your thoughts and your inner knowing. Your thoughts are emotionally charged and they're inconsistent, whereas your inner knowing is neutral and decisive. And actually, the first time that I really felt this difference between the quality of my thoughts and the quality of my inner knowing was when I started practicing automatic writing. So, in the beginning, the driver is your thinking mind. But as you keep writing, you realize that the thinking mind sort of dissipates and this very clear and grounded voice starts to come through. And in automatic writing, this voice is often described as being your higher self, or it could also be a form of channeling. But for me, I just think that it's the thinking mind sort of resting and this clear consciousness coming through. And I love this feeling because you can really feel the difference. The thinking mind is emotional and it's urgent and erratic. But then when your thinking mind is no longer in the driver's seat, there's this shift and it feels so clear and calm and smooth. And it's just this very comfortable, fluid experience. And I think this experience of automatic writing has really helped me to tell the difference between my thoughts and my inner knowing. And then the second practice that I want to share with you is a very simple meditation practice. I like to do this when I'm making a choice. Let's say there's choice A and then there's choice B. So I'll sit in meditation and I'll just imagine choice A and see how my body responds. And then I'll imagine choice B. And again, I'll observe how my body responds. And you can very clearly tell which choice is more comfortable and aligned in your body. The body never lies. It's easy to confuse things in the mind, but the body is very straightforward and it's very honest in its expression. So I really like to rely on my physical senses when it comes to listening to my inner voice. These two practices have helped me so much. And I honestly feel that life is a lot easier when you know what your inner voice sounds like, what your inner knowing feels like. We have this inner guidance within us, and we've been conditioned to not trust it. We've been conditioned to prefer and prioritize logic or our thinking mind over our inner guidance system. And of course, it's important that we use both. We can't only rely on one and discard the other. But I think that when we can tune into our inner knowing and then use our thinking mind, we can make decisions that are more aligned with who we are. So I want to leave you with a question to sit with. When you tune in to that unchanging stillness in the background, what is it trying to tell you today? I'd love to hear your response in the comments below. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.